Hello and welcome, beloveds, to our special Road to Recovery series on the Dr. Mumbi Show. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray, beloveds, that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life truly, truly on your own terms. You know, for so long, many of us have been living our lives on other people's terms, whether it was society's terms or our family's terms or our spouse's terms or our cliques terms. And, we rode on their decisions for so long that many have actually found it, both a struggle and a great, experience, euphoric experience, to now find that they have to live life on their own terms. And some of the decisions that you have to make in these seasons and times demand that you live life on your own terms. I've gotten so much feedback on the shows I've been doing about toxic families, growing up in toxic families, having toxic families use black magic on you to bind you to them so that they can take advantage of your essence, of the skills and the gifts and the talents that you've come in. And I got an overwhelming amount of requests for a show on the Road to Recovery, but I realized it can't really just be one show. It has to be a series. And you see, the thing is, it's all about, they enslaved us mentally. And there's someone who said, marrying your child is like putting them in slavery all over again. Others wanted to argue that, the parents were just responding to what had happened to them. And there was that detachment that we needed to work on between, parents and children because of slavery, because of colonialism and kind of the trauma that mothers and, had to go through, and fathers, and being separated. Because the fathers, during colonialism, they were taken away from their families and put in the cities. And that created all kinds of dynamics of prostitution, etc., and then two families and all these things, beloved. So there's a lot that is in our DNA, that is in our blood, that needs healing. But the more we heal, because a lot of things end with us, beloveds. We're the last ones that are going to go through this cycle, which is why we were welcomed in to this family. Because a lot of us, we came into these families on invitation. Many of us came in to help clear their bloodlines, but also because their ancient or older bloodlines, or the lines that they carried, the DNA that they carried, could help us to come in with some of the gifts and capabilities that have not been seen on this plane for eons, if we can say that, for a very, very, very long time. And so, the road to recovery, as I said in a previous show, the first step is understanding the why. That is the most important thing, beloveds. And then the next most important thing is to create. There's someone who said this, I think it was Andre Wright or something like that. I'll definitely give him a shout out after the break. He talked about creating a matrix of self-worth. And when I read that just exploded in my mind, because you see, of course, there are the important things that we know: create physical distance, establish boundaries. All these things have been made very difficult for you to say. Learn to say no, learn to stick up for yourself. All these things will happen. But what I've found, beloveds, in my experience of helping others, is that a lot of people will leave before they're mentally ready. They'll get out of that situation. They'll cut ties. They'll cut links. They'll, establish a distance, move to a distant country or distant town, never talk to their family again. But they haven't created the necessary mental and spiritual disconnection that is necessary. And so the minute something happens in the family, they're thrown right back to where they are, and they recognize that is still a clutch to them, that is still baggage to them, beloveds. And so it is extremely important to do that studying of understanding the kind of dynamic you are in this plane, in this physical realm. Look into narcissism, identify the different narcissists. And I'll do a different show on it, but there are so many really good shows, beloveds, which talk about the different types of narcissists, the covert, the overt, and really understanding which category, the enemy of your soul, whether it was your mother, mother, your father, your siblings, falls into, will be a really important tool to understanding how to deal with them, and there's certain techniques that they talk about for this 3D level, about gray walling, where you just stop sharing your story, stop sharing the good things that are happening, stop sharing the bad things that are happening, because that may confirm their spell. For real, for real. So, there are those physical things, but the most important thing is to work on your mental and your spiritual. So that thing of building a matrix of self-worth is so critical, beloveds, because what I said in the previous episode is they've taken away so much from you. They've taken away your self-love. They've taken away your self-confidence. Many who maybe your gifts came online when you were young, when you were 7, when you were 8, where you could see things, you could see other realms, you could see other dimensions because they're all right here. You could see other beings. They called you crazy. They called you nuts. They literally did everything they could. They gaslighted you and, bombed you with negative vibes to the point where you shut down your own gifts. And now it's like you have to reopen those gifts because no one else shut them down. They shut it down by making you almost hate yourself and hate that you were, calling you weird, hate your difference, hate your gifts, your incredible gifts and powers. They made you embarrassed. They made you feel like you weren't normal. You were weird. You were strange. And that was never a good thing. Some even called it demonic and called prayers for you so they could exorcise those demons from you. Just because you were prophetic, you were the seer, you were the shaman of the family, beloveds. You were the one sent to, to uplift that bloodline and restore that bloodline to its former glory. And so you have to start building on your self-worth. And that comes from doing, daily exercises towards that. From researching who you are on an individual level, on a collective level. By now, you should have your astrological and numerological chart and description printed out. You should have written it in your own words, what intuitively comes to you. You should have an understanding, a deeper understanding of who you are. You should have created that and known your cycles and the cycles that you have and looked into every kind of thing that talks about who you are. That's how you start building that matrix of self-worth. Because when you find out you're a healer, when you find out you're a seer, when you find out you have prophetic abilities, that builds you up, beloved. That gives you a certain confidence, and it immediately puts you in another bracket. It puts you in another realm of experience, where the minute you acknowledge those, they come online, and then they demand of you. They demand of you to refine yourself. They start even showing up in your life and showing up for you before you'll ever take it to the world and help others. And I believe it's important, though, to get into your calling, because that's where your safety is, beloveds. But let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa.
Welcome back, beloveds, to Dr. Mumbi's spiritual show, our road to recovery. The road to recovery is exactly the same as the road to ascension. It's exactly the same as the road to self-discovery. But some of us, and unfortunately it's a majority of us, who have been through these, mental slavery, mental warping, mental abuse situations, have a little extra work to do in recognizing the lies that we've been told about ourselves. And that's the greatest lie that's ever been told, is the one about who we really are. The fact that many of our parents knew who we were before we came here, and they've done everything they can to tell us that we're not that. Who knew we were prophets but did everything to shun that from us. Who knew maybe we were witches and wizards, which many people may think is wicked, but who knew we were, we had powers to manipulate the energies, to work with water, to work with energy, to heal ourselves and others. Who knew that we had a special vibration and connection to nature, and so they almost kept us from nature. But the greatest damage that they have done is to our construct of ourselves, our mental image of ourselves. And that's what we need to rebuild, beloveds. As Andre Wright said, I think that's his name. Rebuild, build yourself a matrix of self-worth. And I truly believe that one of the ways you build on your self-worth, because you see, a lot of us, like, our self-worth, our self-esteem is down there. It's a daily struggle to even believe we're called, because for so long we've been told that's a figment of our imagination. It's so hard. And you see, if we don't believe, then we can't tap in. That's the secret, beloveds. And you have to go beyond belief even. If you don't know who you are, then you can't tap into who you are. Because you see, the doors, the physical doors that we see represent real mental doors and gateways. And you see, the enemies of our souls, our families, put doors so that we couldn't reach ourselves. They put doors between me, myself, and I, beloveds. And so you can't even, let alone, but you know. And so you almost have to bypass the belief, which is what they've been beating down since day one, telling you you're worthless, you're nothing, there's nothing special about you, punishing you, treating you different from your siblings. You always felt this vibe, not wanting any success for you, always butting heads, always arguing, always just, being in these emotional roller coasters with your family and your spouse, etc., etc. It's because they want to keep you from yourself. And that's why the whole narcissistic thing, and please look into narcissism if any of this has been resonating. There's many great 3D explanations or physical realm explanations of that. But they keep you from yourself, because if you don't know who you are, then everything about you lies dormant. The minute you're like, I'm a prophet, you start to see. The minute you say, I'm a healer, you start to move into those healing abilities for yourself. You first start to heal yourself. You'll just start to see your diet change, and you're taking certain herbs and teas, and all of a sudden you're discovering all these oils and essential oils that are good for your system, and you just know the certain things, the things that your body needs at that time will just be drawn to you. That's just from you acknowledging, knowing that you're a healer. That's how this works, beloveds. The minute you know yourself on a new dimension, you open a new door to your capabilities and possibilities. And so the matrix of self-worth is about seeing yourself really for real, as you really are, and then reinforcing that in your life by acting on that, by learning about that, by going deeper into that. Learning more about seers and prophets, their stories, their experiences, what their gifts look like, how they're in operation. Build that matrix in your mind. Let that be your family, your school, whether you're from the school of seers or the school of healers or the school of prophets. What's the difference between seers and prophets? Prophets see and speak. Seers can just see and keep it to themselves, or do something behind the scenes to change and alter destiny. Start to build yourself up. And in building up your matrix of self-worth, it's also very important to first build up the wall. When you're building up your house or whatever, first you'll put a fence around the area that you want to build it. And we have to do the same, because it's like we're building a totally new foundation and tower for ourselves that we can stand on to now move in new and greater ways. So make sure that at first you put your defenses where you get very serious about anybody who is trying to put you down, who tries to, and is, who tries to make you feel or put you back, mess with your self-esteem, mess with your self-confidence. Such people need to be cut off with like the sword, like no messing around with any kind of person, situation, network, crew, information that will jolt your self-worth, because building the foundation is the hardest part and it requires a lot of alone time, beloveds. And there's a lot of work to be done. Remember the physicals. Create your barriers, create your boundaries, learn to say no, learn to keep things to yourself. Don't accept gifts, etc., from these people. You shouldn't even be interacting on that level with these people, because if they have access to you, they can, and you're still working on yourself, they can trigger some of these things. And these people will always be out to finish what they've started. Until next time, tuko pamoja.